Hello and welcome to another chainsaw carving video. So this is a follow-up on the one that I did with the tools and the things that you need and the things that you don't need. And I realized after doing it that I probably hit less than I, or missed more than I hit, yeah, of tools. So I actually wrote them down this time and we'll try to cover the list. Without further ado, let's get rolling. So a cordless drill and an impact, like they're pretty essential. And I forgot to rate some of the later stuff in the part one video, like the bark peeler and stuff like that. So I mean, bark peeler is probably absolutely not essential. I'll give it like an 8 because it is pretty darn handy, but it's not absolutely essential. You could limp by with a screwdriver or just carve with the bark on. At any rate, yeah. So cordless drill and impact, they're pretty essential. A lot of times what I'll do is just bring one to a show, just the impact or just the drill. The problem is, you know, if you just bring the impact, then you can't drill holes unless you've got those special bits with the drill bit and little octagonal, six-sided, whatever thing that slips in. The impact on a spade bit is really nice to have, which leads us right over to spade bit or eyeball tool. A lot of carvers put the eyeballs in as glass marbles, which is what I do. I use a 9/16 bit and a 14 millimeter thereabouts eyeball. If I'm doing owls, I'll bring a 1-inch bit too, and a lot of times I'll drill a 1-inch hole pretty shallow, and then I'll drill a 9/16 hole in the middle to kind of give that ring around the eye. It just makes it look a little sharper. Actually, yeah, got one. I can show you what that looks like. I just burned this one, so I haven't cleaned it up yet, but there's with the two-step spade bits. All right, so what would I give those? I don't know, pretty important. Like, they always go with me to every show. If I forget my spade bit or my eyeballs, I feel like naked. Like, oh geez, how am I gonna carve without this stuff? Yeah, you can still get it done. You can do a bit with a chainsaw. Some guys are like purists and that's all they do. Like, it's just chainsaw. Even the eyes. It's easier to knock them in with a drill. All right, so the next one is jaw horse. Now, I had one of these a couple years back. Wound up giving the thing away, kind of weird story. Anyway, I really don't like it. First off, it's made out of metal, so you don't want to accidentally hit that thing. And I've seen people like dress them up and they put wooden clamps on, so this way they're less likely to hit the metal. But the problem is that the legs protrude. So you wind up carving, if you can imagine, you've got this angled leg, and you're trying to carve up here. First off, it's a bit high, so you're constantly holding the saw up, and you're constantly stepping around these damn legs. So I wish that it was height adjustable, but it's not. So it's like, I mean, they're not cheap. They're almost the price of a new saw. Like, I don't know, I guess you could find one occasionally for 169, something like that. But I mean, you'd almost get a 180 steel for that. Seems like a lot of money for just a clamp. I just use logs. I mean, you have a couple different various height logs sitting around. Like, I don't know, you can see this one back here. I just screwed things right to that. That's how I clamp them down. And it's a throwaway fixture. You know, if it gets nicked, it gets chewed up, so what? You throw it in take the top off and carve it, or else just throw it in the firewood pile. Yeah, I think it's a better way to do it than spending a lot of money on a specialized clamp. It becomes a pain in the tail. All right, so some people love them. If you love them, go for it. Why not? You think it's really going to do you well. Paintbrushes. You know, trying to find a decent paintbrush. You know, you're spreading polyurethane and all this stuff. And I mean, you don't want to spend a ton of money. You don't want a $10, $15 brush. Maybe you do, but I don't. I want to be able to get one so this way if I accidentally leave it in the can and it gets hard or something like that, I don't feel like I just raided my bank account for another paintbrush. Dollar General's got pretty decent brushes for not a lot of money. And I'll say the quality's sometimes decent, sometimes terrible. Sometimes the head gets real loose on them, so I'll just take a brad, like a little finishing nail, and I'll drive it right through a couple places and bend them over. That way it holds everything together. Their little tacks sometimes loosen up. But for like $2.75, 2-inch, 3-inch brush, they're decent brushes. They're a whole lot better than those 59-cent garbage brushes you get at, like, you know, the craft brushes or whatever. The things that, you know, you'll use for 5 minutes and then throw away because they're that bad. I often run one of those Dollar General brushes for a couple of months before I have to throw it away. All right, next up. So, I mean, paintbrush, it's almost essential. I rank that right up there as a 10 because, I mean, you have to seal the carvings occasionally. You're going to need a paintbrush, right? What would I rank the a jaw horse. I don't know, like a 2, 3, something like that, maybe. Wood burning tool. This is like a little detail oriented. I mean, if you're into that, I had one. I did find use for it. I was like doing a bench that had a military theme. So it had a 1911 pistol. It had the combat boots. So on and so forth. Like you could put the stitching on the combat boots. That was pretty cool. There's a lot of extra time, but it was a custom project for a guy, and I really wanted to knock it out of the ballpark, and I thought I did. Unfortunately, it stopped working. That's a pretty expensive unit, but whatever. It stopped working, so I haven't had one since then, and it's like I haven't really missed it that much. So maybe a 3 on a wood burning tool. If you're really hot into that, you really, really want to do a lot of detail work, get one. Jeez, they're not that much money for a cheapie. For a more expensive one, you're looking at $200-300. You can find those on like hand carving websites. Okay, earmuffs, earplugs, absolutely essential. Don't carve without hearing protection. I'm pretty loose on my safety standards, I guess, but that's the one thing. You don't want to go deaf. And I carved for my first year without them, and man, I tell you what, it was catching up to me. I was definitely losing some of the crispness of my hearing, so I started wearing them, and I've been wearing them ever since. I don't like earplugs that much because my ears sweat, and they just feel gummy. It's just not my thing. I'd rather just have a cheap pair of earmuffs, and I'll say Harbor Freight ones for $2.99 aren't bad. And if you break them, so what? You throw them in the trash can, got a new pair. It doesn't seem like the better money, like the genuine steel ones or the higher priced ones are that much better. Some guys have like the radio built in and all that, and that's pretty cool. But I don't know, I just don't listen to that much music. I kind of make my own music with the saw. Okay, so face shield. I see a lot of newbies will have this full face shield, and I don't know, most of the old timers don't, and it's like, well, I don't know. The one time I was wearing a face shield just because it was on this helmet with earmuffs that I had won, I got a chip in my eye, and I've gotten chips in my eye without wearing it, and it doesn't seem like it really helps that much. I wouldn't say that you need a face shield. I mean, if you really, really want to keep the dust off your face, then go for it. But to me, it gets dusty or can't see that well. It's almost more of a hindrance than it is a safety thing. But I'm not going to tell you don't do it. If you think a face shield's good for you, then do it. But I'll rank that as a flat out 1, like not important. Chaps. A lot of the shows that I do, they require you to wear chaps, and that's fine, I'll wear them. If I'm carving on my own, I don't. Now, I know there's a huge concern that I could hack my leg off, but it's like, when I'm wearing chaps, the legs are stiff, it's hard to maneuver, it's hard to see. I don't know, I feel like there's probably a safety issue in that, because you're running so much hotter. You can suffer from heat fatigue and that sort of thing. So I don't wear chaps when I'm carving at my shop. If you're new at this, I would definitely wear chaps. Get the best pair that you can. There's instances that if you don't know what you're doing, you think you're perfectly safe, and you're kind of pushing on the saw to make that cut, and all of a sudden it drops out the bottom. You could die. Okay, you could actually cut your leg bad enough to die. Don't die. Wear chaps. And then once you're really familiar with things, then you make the call on whether or not you should wear chaps. So, like I said, I don't wear them, but that's a personal decision. So chaps go with me to pretty much every show. I mean, you're going to need them. So I just got to give them a 9 because you're going to need them if you're going to ever do a chainsaw carving show. And if you're carving in public, you really probably ought to wear them. Steel-toed boots. Hey, comfortable footwear is more important than steel-toed boots, in my opinion. You can hit your foot, but I've seen a lot of accidents happen with steel-toed boots on, and they're clunky, and just a decent pair of boots will probably serve you just as well. Don't be that guy that like sticks his foot up on the log and then cuts right next to his shoe. I did that my first carving. I actually nicked my shoe, and I said, maybe I shouldn't do that. So in the past 10,000 carvings, I haven't done that, and I haven't hit my shoe. Steel-toed boots, like I say, probably not that essential. Just decent footwear. I mean, obviously you're going to wear shoes, so what would that be, a 10? Yeah, no, you can carve barefoot, I guess, if you want. A fire extinguisher. Now, I've only used mine twice. One because somebody's truck was on fire. Second one because a guy, another carver, accidentally set his torch down, real windy out, kind of turned his back. It's one of these little torches, doesn't quite turn off after you turn it off. Turned his back with a wind come along and knocked that torch down. It rolled down, burned a hole in the bottom of a 5-gallon gas can. Bad things ensued. It actually took 3 fire extinguishers and about 11 guys shoveling sawdust onto this because it got under his trailer. It was a bad deal. Fire extinguishers should go with you just about everywhere. I'll put that as like a 9. I sometimes forget it, but boy, the 2 times I needed it, I had it, thankfully. Gorilla Glue. I mean, you can't be a chainsaw carver without a bottle of Gorilla Glue. Don't buy the gigantic bottle. Buy the small ones. Use them, because otherwise the stuff gets crusty inside. And you're going to fix a carving, I mean, you have to have it. Jeez. That'd be like, again, I don't bring it to every show, but man, is it important when I do need it. So I'll give that like an 8, yeah. A canopy. You know, I don't know, if you're going to set up just about anywhere, you need to keep the sun off your back, you need to keep the rain off your butt. A canopy. I've run around with the 12 by 12s for 1 year, and they're so long, the span's so long, they tend to just break up. I'd much rather run a 10 by 10. The most important thing is stake the thing down well. Get those long spikes from like Lowe's or whatever, log cabin spikes, and stake that thing down. And if the wind starts coming up, get your guide wire staked down too. I don't know, that's not exactly chainsaw carving related, but you're probably going to want a canopy. Also, watch out for the ones that say they're 10 by 10, but they're actually 8 by 8 because the legs lean and the top's rather small. Well, it's an 8 by 8. Quit calling it a 10 by 10. The footprint might be 10 by 10, but that doesn't count for anything because you're only shielding an 8 by 8 area. You don't have to spend a ton of money on these. Like there's maybe 70, 80, sometimes $100. You know, some guys use the pole ones that you assemble. I just found it takes too long. I'd rather just bring 2 10 by 10s, boom, boom, stretch them out, done. You know, the Easy Up's a good brand, but I generally run the Walmart specials, the Ozark Trail or whatever, and they're just fine. And if you get a year out of it, you're doing something right. Yeah, all right, so for actually carving, orbital sander. Now my buddy Chris Lance from Extreme Carving, or Extreme Sculpting, has a bigger version of this, which he calls a DA. It's got like the motor back here, and it's a really nice unit, but I haven't been able to find one. And nobody knows what DA stands for. So I don't know. If you know what the actual name of it, go for it. He's from Georgia. I guess they call things different down there. But this is an orbital sander. It's a Porter cable. I've had well, forget it. Just throw it on the ground. I've had it for a couple of years, like 6 years. It's been that long? Yeah, anyway, it's really decent for doing finish work. Like, you really want to get something smooth, you're going to need one of these. It's not strictly essential because the angle grinder will do a lot, but especially if you're doing like tabletops, furniture, benches, that sort of thing. You want to get it smooth enough to really feel nice and smooth. Get this, get yourself a big pack of the sanding discs. And I run, that's like 40 grit, 40, 50, 36, whatever. That's all about the same. And then I run 80 as my finish. Now, if you run it really smooth, go to 120, but I say 80 is about all you need. Yeah, let's get a couple more. So, okay, how important is the orbital sander? 6? Maybe 6.5? All right, next up. So I was given this. I talked yesterday in the other video about the chainsaw teeth grinder disc. It's deadly, you know. This has like built in. This is a metal. It's made out of metal grinder, so it's specifically for wood. It's almost like sandpaper welded to it. It does okay, but I find it a little rough, and it leaves really a rough finish. But if you're trying to take a lot of wood off in a hurry, this is a suitable replacement for that chainsaw disc thing. It's relatively safe. I find it kind of vibrating, like you really feel that you're solidly connected to the wood. Like it doesn't give you a soft feel at all. So I mean, I don't use it that often. I'll give it like a 2. But hey, if that's all you can find, or if you really want to hog some wood out with a grinder, this might be the way to go. And I wish I could tell you a brand name, but I don't even see one on it. I don't know, look around, you'll find them. Okay, flap sander. Now this goes on a drill, and it's got the little uh, deals. I've got one. Give me just a moment here. I'll go ahead and get to that. Of course, mine's covered in paint leaked out, but that's a flap sander. That's an awfully small one, and it's an awfully cheap one, but it was a yard sale find, and I got it. My dad got it for me, and I just to kind of mess around with. It does the job. It does a pretty cool job, because after you burn the carbon, you can kind of give it this antique look with one. I see a lot of carvers making good use of these. Not really my thing. It's not. I mean, but it's kind of cool. I don't know. Maybe you like the 3. Yeah. Wire brush. So just a good old grill brush, wire brush. You know, mechanic's brush. Good stiff bristles will prolong your grinder discs for so much longer. So once in a while, just take your angle grinder with your disc and clean it up, right? And that way you're knocking all that sap and sawdust out of there. And you can make a disc go for a lot longer with one of these. The other thing is you can actually use it on the carving to kind of the same effect as the flap sander. You can kind of brush it out to give it that antique look, brush some of the burn out, take the char off, keep the sawdust off. I'll give this a 5. You know, a lot of times I don't bring it, but when I do bring it, it's handy. And I think we're winding down here. Yes, the cant hook. So this is a log turner cant hook. This is a cant hook. A PV would have a spike. Now, I've heard people say it the other way around, but that's the way I've been taught. So I've had this one for many years. Given to my dad back in Pennsylvania, like 30 years ago. And it was old then. I like the cant hook better than the PV. You know, first off, in the truck, I'm not going to accidentally spear myself. The other thing is, I don't know, I find like I can get to things a little easier with this. I do have a couple of PVs that I've picked up over the years. Yeah, I kind of prefer this one. So if you find one used, you know, grab it. Make sure the handle's in decent shape, which this one looks rough, but it's been shipped like that for 30 years. Gets the job done. Now I'm gonna give you one more little cool lesson that I learned not too long ago. So let's say you've got a big log and you need to stand this thing up, you know, like a 4 or 5 foot long log. Just grabbing it and grunting and lifting, yeah, you might do it, and especially if you're a big dude. And I've done some that would probably knock your socks off on how did I move that thing, but there's an easier way, especially if you've got 2 people. Take a 2x4 and screw it to the log. So screw it that way, right across the top of the log, right? Well, in that case, you're going to be laying down. And screw it to the log with a couple of good deck screws. Have a guy get on one side or get on the other side, and then you both just lift that thing up. Now, the 2x4 is going to prevent that log from twisting because you're lifting evenly. And that's a lot of the problem when you're trying to grunt a log up and wants to roll on you. So all of a sudden, one hand gets way more, you know, you're lifting a whole lot more weight than the other because the log, no matter how round a log looks, one side's going to be heavier than the other. It's just the scheme of things. So, yeah, you guys just bloop, and it's like, was that really that easy? Why have I been doing it the hard way for all these years? So there's your little life lesson. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Have a good day.